forced me to sharpen the argument and explain the relevance of a past financial crisis. In addition, Oliver, one of the most astute observers of social shifts and their political implications I know, was the first to encourage me to go beyond the economic aspects of the 1931 financial crisis. His constant support proved crucial for completing the project. I also profited enormously from exchanges with economic historians who share my strong interest in the 1931 crisis. Olivier Acominotti, Alexander Apostolides, Johannes Baer, Simon Banholzer, Vincent Bignon, Evin Etrem, Marc Flandreau, Juan Flores, Luca Fröhlicher, Per Hansen, Clemens Jobst, Lars Schjonung, Drew Keeling, Jan Tore Klovland, Peter Kugler, Matthias Maurice, Lars Ögren, Lars Fredrik Exendahl, Mary O'Sullivan, Gianluca Pardini, Alexander Radke, Alfred Reckendries, Samad Sarfaraz, Mark Spörer, Stefano Ugolini, Scott Urban, Hans-Joachim Voth, Florian Weber, Ulrich Wojtek, and Nicolas Wolf. I owe special thanks to Harold James and Albrecht Ritschel, whose endorsement proved crucial for finalizing the book. Finally, I am indebted to Ian Roger for making this book readable for an English audience and helping me clarify my thoughts, and Luciana O'Flaherty and her staff at Oxford University Press for their excellent management and support. Introduction. On the 14th of July 1931, Joseph Goebbels, leader of the NSDAP, Nationalsozialistische Deutsche Arbeiterpartei, Berlin branch and party propaganda chief, was exultant. "The craziest things happen in politics," he wrote in his diary. "The credits have dried up. Chancellor Brüning has run into serious problems. The Reich is verging on bankruptcy. Our hour approaches with eerie certainty, and we will seize it. After Brüning, it is our turn." Sadly, Goebbels was right. Germany's financial crisis precipitated the collapse of the Weimar Republic with frightening speed. Only 18 months later, in January 1933, Hitler was named Chancellor by President Hindenburg. Goebbels may have been wrong in predicting that the Nazis would overtake the government immediately after Brüning. Two other figures, Franz von Papen and Kurt von Schleicher, sat briefly in the Chancellery before Hitler came to power. But Goebbels' basic intuition was correct. A government that shuts down banks, introduces capital controls, and declares partial default in the middle of a deep slump has little chance of surviving. Brüning managed to stay in power until May 1932, but after July 1931 he was mortally wounded. Germany's 1931 financial crisis not only gave the Nazis the opening they needed, but also triggered an international liquidity crisis, throwing banks and financial markets across the globe into chaos. Panicked investors forced sterling to go off the gold standard, prompting a wave of devaluations in such distant places as India and Japan, a run on the dollar, and a banking crisis in the United States. Like dominoes, the pillars of the global economy toppled one after another. It was not the stock market crash of 1929 that pushed the world into economic depression, but the German crisis of 1931. This in turn further weakened the German economy and the government in Berlin. Every generation since has studied this extraordinary period of political and economic havoc. Now that we are emerging from another great financial crisis and living in a world of political polarization, it seems a particularly appropriate moment to revisit the events of 1931. The central question that needs to be answered has remained the same ever since it happened. Why weren't policymakers able to prevent such a disaster? A common hypothesis is that they did not see it coming, and there is some truth to that. Early warnings expressed by independent economists were ignored, and many politicians indulged themselves in moralistic lecturing that lacked basic economic literacy. Yet, after the currency crisis triggered by the sensational victory of the Nazi Party in the September 1930 Reichstag elections, many politicians realized that Germany was on the brink of financial collapse. From that moment, they had plenty of time to prevent the disaster.